This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are locked in with us here at Fourth and Frames tonight. I'm Rhett, and you're here with my co-hosts Nate Markham, Drew Scott, and Aiden Weingartner. Tonight, we're going to break down our plays and fades for Week 7. And if you're joining us on YouTube, first off, thanks for joining us. Secondly, if you're with us live, we'll be answering your questions as well. And if you're with us on YouTube and want to support our content, the best way you can do that is by liking and subscribing to this video, and then lock it in with the Fantasy and Friends YouTube channel to catch anytime a new podcast or short form video drops from us. And you can also search for all the podcasts here at Fantasy and Friends by name on your preferred podcast platform. For us, make sure to subscribe to the Fourth and Frames podcast. Then lock in at fantasyandfriends.com for the latest rankings for both Redraft and IDP, as well as our staff Dynasty rankings and all of our latest articles. Score on the frames. I never start with you, Aiden. So how the heck are you tonight,
man? Thank you for starting. I'm good. I'm excited to get into Week 7. It seems like we're really, unfortunately, entrenched with injuries and bye weeks now. So we have to go a little deep down to the well, if you will, to find some smash players, and on the flip side, some higher players that you want to pass on. But it's still going to be fun nonetheless.
And my question for you is: over the past couple of weeks, when hasn't that been the case? Because we've been since about Week 5, we've been kind of having to drag the bottom of the river to find some fantasy gold. But Nate, you've done a pretty good job of that as well, my friend, over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've played the system, find some people that opportunistically speaking should be easy, because I'm not taking these as just victories on the show, like you outperformed his ADP, congratulations, there's rankings, good job, Nate. But viable spots, and I think you have to be. I mean, we're digging through the trash for a lot of these people, but sometimes what they say, one man's trash is another man's treasure. I do want to go back and say this is finally another good week where we don't have to split up the sides and say, oh, look at our good winning teams and look at our bad losing teams. But I will say the right side of your screen does have 2 winning teams from last week. Drew's Los Angeles Rams.
I should not be on the side, but here we are.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but yeah, it was not what I expected out of the Bills back-to-back weeks. But yeah, the Chiefs are back, and Rashee Rice is back. We'll probably talk about that in some capacity. But yeah, all in all, things are looking up. It's Week 7. We have Drew back. I couldn't be happier to be here right now.
And Drew, speaking of dragging the river and mining for gold, last Sunday, we had that last-minute sleeper announcement that Bam Knight was going to start at running back. And guess who beat me to the punch in the Fantasy and Friends Redraft League?
Yeah, I picked up Bam Knight in like 4 leagues, I think, Sunday morning after that announcement came out. I didn't start him in any of them, so I'm not going to sit here and victory lap or anything. But hey, what if Shefty's right? Who knows? I can make a bench spot for a guy that might be a starting running back that, where the clear starter isn't going to be there for a while anyway. So might as well throw him on the bench and see what happens. And now, you mentioned digging for gold. Bam Knight's in a few of my starting lineups this week, so I'm glad I picked him up.
I didn't even realize you picked him up in that league. So
gross.
So I ended up doing Bam Knight in a couple other leagues. I started Bam Knight in a 14-team league. Guess what? 18 fantasy points, baby. Not bad.
Let's go.
So that's what we're about. What's that?
I said that's what you got to do in a 14-team league.
Yeah, you're right about that. But guys, that's why we're here, is because we're trying to give you guys, or watchers, listeners, the edges that you need to be successful in your fantasy leagues this coming week. So why don't we just get straight into it and get straight into our Week 7 Smash or Pass players. A smash player is a player that is outside the top 12 quarterbacks, top 15 running backs, top 20 wide receivers, or top 10 tight ends in the Fantasy Pros Week 7 expert consensus rankings. While a pass player is a player that is inside the top 15 QBs, the top 20 running backs, top 35 wide receivers, or top 12 tight ends in the Fantasy Pros Week 7 ECR. But before we get there, what was that comment from Moggs? You just had a quick comment up there.
Yeah. Throwing some comments up in the chat. We got a couple of our frequent flyers, some guys that are usually here hanging out with us on Wednesday. So just wanted to show some love to Brandon and Moggs that are here in the chat with us. And Moggs had brought up that he's still stashing Keaton Mitchell. There's a lot of teams that need running backs right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of teams that want to trade for running backs, and so that right now is just as good of a time as any to stash as many handcuffs as you can fit on your bench, because any of these guys could get moved and open up opportunity. And to Moggs's point, Keaton Mitchell's kind of taking a back seat to Justice Hill as the guy behind Derrick Henry so far, but things could very easily change. And Keaton Mitchell has a lot of explosiveness, and he's a really fun player. So definitely somebody to keep an eye on for sure. And speaking of frequent flyers, Albert, what's up, man? Thank you for joining us.
What are the OGs with us for like 3 years now?
It really is a day one for sure.
But Nate, let's get into our first Smash player. But Brandon asked this question: do you bet on any trades before the trade deadline?
Yes.
Drew, do you think anything? Yeah, obviously trades will happen. You guys thinking surprises, kind of niche moves? Nate, you answered that pretty emphatically. So what are you thinking is a real possibility?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there were talks on, Sunday morning. You know what? Andy, one of the co-hosts or guests of our show, mentioned a very, very fair point that many teams are looking at what the Dolphins didn't do, which is potentially if they could have moved Tyreek Hill, which would have been a struggle and a challenge, but injury completely took that away. So you have some of these other teams. I think that, the Saints we've talked about with Alvin Kamara is one that obviously if they can move him and get something in return, they would likely do so. I think the running back landscape is one that's going to see probably the biggest names moved, but I think there'll be ancillary pieces. You mentioned they've mentioned the Steelers need a wide receiver. Shockingly, wow, what do you know? You had a wide receiver, and you could have, George Pickens would have looked really good in that offense. Oddly, I guess is the right way to say it. But yeah, I do. I feel like there's going to be, I would guess, 3 fantasy relevant moves by the trade deadline. That's my over under is 3.
Yeah, I'd almost
usually it's a disappointment. So.
But yeah, over the past couple of years, there really hasn't been. There's kind of been some low-key high-profile moves over the past couple of years. So let's start off with our
real quick before we get to Smash or Pass. Just one other quick question, and I wanted to bring it up now as opposed to waiting, just because we're talking about handcuffs, backup running backs, and so NLT brings a backup running back question to the forefront. So Charbonnet or Kendre Miller? You guys have a preference rest of season between the two? Would you if you have Charbonnet, would you drop him to pick up Kendre Miller?
Keep Charbonnet. I'd keep Charbonnet. He gets goal line opportunities in a high-powered offense.
Nate, any disagreements with that?
No, I would. If Charbonnet is the last person on your roster, you're in pretty good shape. I would like to believe there could be, but I don't know the person's roster themselves. But I could probably find a receiver that I may drop before that. But it's closer, especially like I just said about Alvin Kamara. If Kamara moves, that's obviously an uptick. But yeah, right. Charbonnet, exactly like Aiden said, goal line touch is still involved in that offense, and probably a better offense than the Saints will be going forward.
Sorry,
yeah, and the coaching staff in Seattle does not seem to care how inefficient Charbonnet has been. They're still just continuing to hand him the rock. So if they don't care, there's no reason for us to care.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, fair enough. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. Nate,
yo.
We're going to talk about it a little bit later, but significant injury with the LA Rams last week with Puka Nacua going down. Expected to miss some time with, I believe, an ankle injury. So this first Smash player you have up here just makes a ton of sense. A guy that I've rostered in a couple fantasy leagues this week as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's too when you have an offense that has the second most targets to the wide receiver position. You have a funnel that historically, at least this year, has been to the number 1, and then the 2, that was Puka. Now it was Devontae Adams. Now Devontae Adams inherits that number 1 role, but Jordan Whittington should move right into. I think the second highest target percentage. Is that number going to be above 20%? I don't want to get that far into the weeds yet, but Whittington fills a role that seems ripe for opportunity. He can play in the slot, which against the Jaguars secondary and against their defense, it's the one thing I think that they'll try to exploit is some of the crossing routes that Whittington has been known to do. The pure volume alone should speak dividends. And honestly, if he gets 7, 8 targets is a fair number to set with his actual catch rate. His catch rate's been phenomenal for his career. And I think that could translate into a legitimate 5 to 6 catches. And you get that out of a flex spot in another bye week, down weeks with injuries. I'll take Jordan Whittington with that Rams offense all day long. And Drew, I'm sure you would probably agree.
I definitely would. I'm a Jordan Whittington fan. And with how well Stafford's playing, I definitely want a piece of this Rams offense. And Adams is obviously the clear beneficiary, but not to say that Jordan Whittington is Puka Nacua, but of the other options in the Rams offense, Whittington can best try to replicate what Puka does for that offense, and in a very, very Aldi's sort of way. So I Whittington is the direction I would go if I had to pick another Rams pass catcher as well.
When you have bye weeks and you have injuries and everything else, sometimes shopping at Aldi gets the job done. You might not find the high end.
You get by
the super fancy olives or the real nice cuts of meat, but you know what you get? You get dry goods at a cheap price, things that fill the pantry, and that's what Jordan Whittington is. He's a pantry filler, which I'm glad I didn't stutter and or have a
yeah. Let's not.
Would have been bad. Welcome back, Rhett.
Glad you're here.
Thanks. So yeah, Jordan Whittington, best way to put him, as Nate puts it, I kind of like this, and I might start using this going forward, is just a beans and rice fantasy player. Just like a dude that's going to fill up the stat sheet a little bit, nothing fancy, but put him in a flex spot, 5 catches, 50 yards, maybe snake a score here and there. And all of a sudden, you're in business in the snake spot, baby, in a flex spot. So I don't hate the call. So Jordan Whittington as that first smash play. Aiden,
yep,
you're going to New Orleans with your pick against a Chicago Bears defense that, like we said, isn't especially great against the run. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm just this jaded as a Saints fan, but it just feels like anytime one of you come up with a Saints player as a smash or a pass, I just feel the need to hate on it because I'm not in the best graces with this roster right now. And with Alvin Kamara, who you're about to talk about,
yeah,
what I see is a 30-year-old running back that's lost his step, that isn't especially explosive, isn't as involved in the pass game as he was last year, 2 years ago. Looking into that a little bit deeper, you kind of see that maybe he is a little bit more involved than it seems like he is. But tell me, what do you see that I don't? What makes him a smash play this week?
Yeah, so obviously, as we all know, Alvin Kamara had a very, very down week last week against the Patriots, which honestly was expected against the elite Patriots run defense. And then Kendre Miller continuing to get involved, especially as the perceived goal line back now in that offense. But we've talked about, it seems like every week this season, especially in recent weeks, when I've been on here, I said JCM last week. Other than the fumble, it worked out against the very poor Chicago Bears defense. I'm viewing any running back, not auto start, but borderline, close to must start / auto start territory. And Rhett, you talk about the offense as a whole. Is it fair to say that the Saints offense, it's not a complete dumpster fire like we thought? Maybe they're like a plucky team. Maybe like Spencer Rattler is okay, I guess. Is that fair to say?
Look, me and several fellow fans have had this discussion about Spencer Rattler over the past several weeks. Fantasy wise, in a 2-quarterback league, he might be rosterable as a third quarterback at this point. He's top 17, 18 in fantasy points per game as a quarterback. So, you know, as your second quarterback and a super flex, you could do worse. As an actual quarterback, I might be having to come around to the fact that it's never going to be exciting. It's never going to be fun. But he's efficient enough in this rebuild to be a guy that they can have him play out the life of his rookie contract. And then going forward, I can see him being one of these really highly paid backup running backs, quarterbacks in the league, a la he gets a Daniel Jones 1-year deal somewhere down the line. He has a long career where he's getting 2-year, $12 million deals like Jameis Winston does, etc. ad nauseum. He's better than I thought. I still don't see him as a franchise guy, like strangely some of these Saints fans are coming around to thinking. But, you know, he's been good enough considering what he's had to work with this year.
Yeah, my point is the Saints offense, they kind of fight and scrap towards the end of games. They're not like a total dumpster fire like they thought they would be. But maybe this is going down the rabbit hole by me a little bit too much here. But if they really are shopping Alvin Kamara, I know what he said years ago. I would retire if I ever were to go anywhere else. Yeah, whatever. Okay. But how long can you live at the Saints and whatnot? Sorry, Rhett. It's just is what it is. So I look at it as if they really are trying to shop Alvin Kamara and get what they can for him, wouldn't they want to showcase him to the best of their ability? Maybe I'm overthinking that a bit, but I think they want to showcase him a lot against that very poor Bears run defense, and the Bears offense is heating up at the right time here, so this will be a shootout. And I know Alvin Kamara hasn't necessarily been, the most reliable pass catcher this year. He's an elite pass catcher, but they haven't weirdly enough utilized him like that. So maybe that does gain uptick this week, especially as the trade deadline approaches and they want to showcase him even more.
Yeah, we did. We did see an uptick, at least. We have seen a little bit more so in terms of the targets, which is good because he's now, after 2 of the 3 first weeks, 2 targets apiece. At least he's had at minimum 5 per over the last 3 weeks, 5, 6, and 5 again. It is on the rise. And the one thing with the Bears, I do want to monitor this week, and I don't want to get too far into a tangent, but Jorge on Sunday morning brought up a really good point, is that check out the Bears and see if what we saw prior to week 5 or prior to week 6, let's see if the addition or, reintroduction of TJ Edwards to that defense actually does anything for the run D. And while I don't think it's like the end all be all that's going to change that run D from being where they're at to being elite, it is something to pay attention to. So if Alvin Kamara can carve them up again, you're right. I think it's a really good demonstration for potential buyers.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I just like starting anyone against the Bears run defense.
Same here. I'm right there with you, man. I definitely am.
Yeah, but going back to the Kamara receiving profile, it's actually more interesting than I thought it was because he's actually 5th among running backs in receptions with 22. He's got the 5th most routes run at 136. He's running 22.7 routes per game. He's got a 13.1% target share. That's 11th at the position. He's got a 62.4% route participation. The problem is his yards per route run are 0.9, which is 29th position, and his yards per reception are 5.5, which is 26th at the position. So, it's kind of the same argument I made last week with Chris Olave, which apparently blew up in my face because Chris Olave responded with 5 catches for 98 yards last week. But the Kamara receiving profile so far this year has pretty much been an empty calories one, which probably means that he's going to have a great game this week because I said this about Olave last week, but it's fine.
Of course.
I'll take it. So, Jordan Whittington, Alvin Kamara, and Drew, you're going to go to Tampa, and I guess your smash play is pretty much a matter of last man standing, a guy who's played pretty well this year, but Igbuka is expected to miss some time. Chris Godwin re-aggravated the injury. So they need a second wide receiver in Tampa. So Sterling Shepard has stepped up and been a nice little player for them this year, and he gets an opportunity to really step up into a prime usage spot this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that the Bucks are dealing with their fair share of injuries, like you mentioned, between Godwin and Ibuka. And then Mike Evans, they're hoping that he practices and plays this week. If he does play, it'll be his first game back since week 3. So, coming off a hamstring injury, I'm not sure what his snaps will look like, but he'll definitely play a factor if he does play. But somebody has to benefit from this. Somebody has to catch the ball. Mike Evans is the obvious answer, but with the way that Baker Mayfield has been playing this year, I'm fully expecting at least 2 of Tampa's receivers to be fantasy relevant this week. And I initially thought about going with one of the Johnsons, the Johnson & Johnson company. We got Cameron and Ortez. They were both more productive than Sterling Shepard last week. Each of them caught a touchdown. But I ended up landing on Sterling Shepard instead. And honestly, it really Rhett, you kind of alluded to it. It really came down to just my faith in his role in the offense. We know from week 1, and maybe it took a Jalen McMillan injury for it to happen, but from week 1, Sterling Shepard has been out there. He's been involved in this offense. And Cameron Johnson, Tez Johnson, we really just saw them start to get involved because of the injuries to Godwin and now Ibuka and what Mike Evans has been dealing with. But Shepard's been out there from week 1, and whenever Ibuka and Evans were both healthy, Sterling Shepard was really more of a primary slot guy. But once Ibuka left the game last week, Shepard played a decent amount on the outside as well. And I'm expecting Shepard to move around. Evans, he lines up on the outside a good amount of his snaps. But, between Shepard and both of the Johnsons, those guys are probably all going to rotate out between the slot and the outside receiver. But Shepard is the one I have the most faith on to play a significant amount of snaps and be out on the field. And whenever you're out playing snaps against this line secondary, that's a beautiful thing. So far on the season, they've been the 3rd best matchup for fantasy receivers based on schedule adjusted fantasy points given up to the position. And Rock Ya-Sin, who Shepard will likely match up with the majority of his out wide snaps, he has the highest fantasy points per route run among quarterbacks this season. He's giving up the highest amount of fantasy points per route run. So pretty solid matchup. And with this game being in Detroit, we know how well the Lions offense plays at home. I'm expecting Baker and the Bucs to have to put up points. And considering Baker is playing at an MVP level so far this season, if I had to vote so far through 6 weeks, I think he should be the MVP. I have faith in Baker continuing to produce even with his top weapons being injured. And so I think Shepard could be a benefactor of that. So give me Sterling Shepard as a smash play, as someone that you could play as a flex option or maybe even a wide receiver too if you're in a tough spot this week.
I like it, man. Do we have any questions we can get to in terms of start sits in the chat or what, Drew?
Yes, sir. We got some lined up. So first one up was Epic Fail. He wanted us, we were talking about backup running backs earlier. He wanted us to rank these stashes at running back in PPR. So you got some backups. You got Kyle Monangai over in Chicago, Brashad Smith in Kansas City, Isaiah Davis over with the Jets, Ray Davis with Buffalo, and then Caleb Johnson. Cannot believe we're talking about Caleb Johnson as a stash going into week 7. What a sad turn of events that is. But nonetheless, he is absolutely a part of this group and is somebody we need to discuss. So between these running backs, which one or a couple are we highest on? Let's start there. Nate, do you have a favorite 1 or 2 guys that you want to stash, or do you have an order ready for us?
Man, I mean, I realistically think the most potentially obvious, if it's obvious, path to a starting role is Isaiah Davis if Breece Hall's actually moved. That being said, there's just as much of a case to be made that the highest upside of all the players on this list is Brashard Smith being attached to the offense, but that requires him to get more involvement. And it's so, we're 6 weeks in, and while the fantasy playoffs is what you're stashing these guys for, realistically, we have to see a little bit more involvement. So I'd probably go Isaiah Davis, Brashard Smith. At that point, I think you're hoping, I'm not hoping for an injury, but you're banking on an injury happening to propel one of those final 3, if not really all 5 of these guys. Does anybody have any, definite number 1?
For me, it's Isaiah Davis by far, because I do expect Breece Hall to get traded to either like the Chargers or the Chiefs, who seems like they desperately need a running back within the next couple weeks. And then Isaiah Davis could be walking into a ton of value.
Yeah. I mean, Ray Davis is essentially just a James Cook handcuff. Like Todd Johnson's getting the pass down work. Ray Davis, I think he's playing single digit snaps on a weekly
He
basis
played
now.
2 on Sunday.
Yeah. So I mean, it's rough. He has no standalone value whatsoever. I do think his value would come up, and we saw last year whenever James Cook did miss that Ray Davis was pretty solid. So I do like he is a purely injury dependent guy. Manon guy, I was really hoping to see a more expanded role coming out of the Bears bye week. He was basically the same exact Kyle Manon guy that we saw.
Yeah.
So I would agree. I think I would go Davis, Smith, Manon guy, and then there's 2 Davises. I would go Isaiah Davis, Smith, Manon guy, and then Caleb Johnson, Ray Davis, and whatever order you want it there. I don't want to quit Ray. As bad as it's been, I still want to hold on to some hope with Caleb Johnson, and we saw him get a little bit more involved. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that he could overtake Kenneth Gainwell at some point to be the run back too, but that's
when everyone dropped him.
Yeah, it's sad that's where we're at now. We got a couple questions from Jonathan. We got a start sit, and then we've got a trade question. So we'll hit both of those real quick. So the first one, start 1, Diggs, Wandale, or JMO in a full PPR.
I'm back in as long as the usage is the same going forward. What the Detroit Lions did with Jameson Williams this past week was the most inspiring. I'm back in. What we saw is the one thing we've been hoping for. We wanted to see more routes designed underneath, shorter routes than that 24-yard, hope or to prayer, one big play only. We saw a lot more involvement. Now I say a lot more. Anything more than 0 is a lot more. But
right.
I believe I'm back in if they actually are going to use this going forward. Diggs is also banged up. He missed practice today, and I don't want any receivers at all from any team going against Denver. So that's a process of elimination for me, despite the PPR and Wandale being nice. I'm back in on JMO. Talk me off the ledge, everybody.
No,
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the call. Diggs, if he's healthy, Diggs is going to be the guy I'm going to have ranked the highest this week. I know that he didn't get the targets as much last week, but if that touchdown doesn't get called back, nobody cares about that. And his day still looks really good. And I still think that he's going to be the number 1 guy there for New England. And they can't run the ball worth a shit. And Drake May is just playing out of his mind right now. And so if he's healthy, I think Diggs is the one that I prefer, but it's really close between him and JMO. It's like Diggs and JMO were really close, and then Wandale's down here by himself.
And I agree with that.
Problem
in terms
is
of rankings
just
this week.
Oh, go ahead.
What you say, Rhett?
I said I agree with that this week, it being Diggs, JMO, Wandale. But going forward the rest of season, here's the thing, is that our Stephon Diggs track record over the last 3 or 4 years is that we're in the middle of the Stephon Diggs heater month, which means inevitably, if the track record is right, he's going to fall off at some point later on this year, and he'll lose a lot of value. We'll see where that goes. That's just kind of been how it's been the past couple of years. And the Wandale usage in New York is like a 180 from what it was last year, where he was
he's getting downfield targets.
Yeah. He was an 80-catch, 700-yard guy, and now all of a sudden, last week, I think it was another like 6 or 7 for a 120 game for Wandale. So it's like, man, with Dart being in there being a little bit excited in that offense, Scottaboo being a threat to keep it off the passing game. Like, I don't know. There's some real value there rest of the season with Wandale.
Yeah, I agree. After this week, which, I mean, it is nice that he likely won't get the Pat Surtain treatment, but even outside of Surtain, the Denver defense just in general is pretty brutal. So you got a mix of JMO or Diggs. I'm not sure.
Aiden, you were going to say something.
Aiden, between the two, if you had to pick between Diggs or JMO, who would you take?
So first part answer, I was going to make the point that Diggs, like, weirdly enough, he's not like playing a ton of snaps like he should be. So I don't know what's up with that, but yeah, for JMO and Diggs, I do expect a Diggs bounce back, but I would take the higher ceiling in JMO. And like Nate explained, it's not just like 1 or 2 deep bomb prayers for JMO. Like, they're actually using him in the middle of the field now. Like, they're actually targeting him in different, creative, more consistent ways.
dangerous. If you can do it.
Consistent is a very kind word, but
Well,
Yeah.
consistent in terms of his usage. In terms of his usage.
He is at least playing more snaps than Diggs. He definitely
That's
has
what
that
I meant,
going for him. Yeah, I get what you're saying. He does definitely have that going for him. All right, so you got Jonathan. You got two JMOs and one Diggs on that one. So hopefully that helped. Maybe we'll be a little bit more helpful with your Twade. Holy cow, you
No,
guys,
Twade
we got
question.
we got a Twade question into chat, guys. Do we want to Twade McBride and Jameson? Speaking of, for BTJ and Hawkinson, McBride and Jameson for me for sure.
By far, I'm not giving up McBride for like anything. So
yeah, no, the gap between McBride and Hawkinson is just
Hawkinson's like a borderline like benchable player. So
yeah, no, that's a very fair statement. Very fair statement. And I'm not even BTJ and Jameson feels like a lateral move, if anything.
Yeah.
So,
Wash.
okay, all right. And then we got Ben in the chat with another trade question. Should I trade James Cook and Zay Flowers for Rome Odunze and Bucky Irving? I'm 2-4 in a 14 man league, but 8 teams make the playoffs. And just for some additional context, he's got James Cook, Gibbs, Kenneth Walker, Jeremy McNichols at running back. So he'd be trading away James Cook, adding Bucky Irving to that running back room. And then he's got Amon-Ra, Drake London, Zay Flowers, Chris Godwin, Christian Kirk. So he would be trading away Flowers and adding Rome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love the upgrade from Zay to Rome, but I don't like the downgrade from Cook to Bucky whenever you're already 2-4. And we know Bucky's at least not playing week 7, and we have no idea what the future holds from there. Like if I knew Bucky was playing week 8 and you only had to go 1 week with Gibbs and Kenneth Walker as your 2 running backs, I would probably feel differently and I would say do it. But with you already being 2-4 and the uncertainty around Bucky Irving, that's a really tough trigger to pull, even though that you would upgrade from Zay Flowers to Rome Odunze. But the reality is your wide receiver core is so strong already that it's not like you have to upgrade the wide receiver room. If anything, I'd be looking to upgrade the running back room. And so maybe you can package Flowers and I don't know if this is a 1 quarterback league. I would try to package Flowers with one of the quarterbacks and go get a running back. You don't need 2 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback league, even 14 man. The only week you're not starting Jaden Daniels is his bye week, assuming he's healthy. So you don't really need Goff. And so if a team is quarterback needy, I would look to package Goff with Flowers or somebody like that and see if you can upgrade a running back as opposed to doing that. But I don't know if you guys disagree.
I agree.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say at 2-4, I don't think you can afford to take on the risk of Bucky. You need wins now, and that's not gonna help you.
No, I agree completely because it's going to be, I don't want to say minimum 3 weeks, but the next 2 weeks. And then let's say he even gets close to returning in week 8. Well, week 9, they have a bye. If I'm Tampa at the rate that they're playing, I'm not starting him and, facing re-injury. I'll sit him through the bye. So yeah, I like your opinion though, Drew, as far as secondary options of what you can do to upgrade.
I agree.
There we go.
Any other ones?
All right.
Let's hit the next set of smash plays, and then we'll come back to the chat here shortly.
Cool.
Yep.
Perfect. And so we just mentioned Rome Odunze. It's a perfect segue. Nate, you're going to Chicago. It ain't Rome, but it is a dangerous player who we're kind of just waiting to pop at any given moment. This could be the week, in your opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've seen sporadically that Luther Burden is capable of the big plays and being a valued target option for Caleb Williams and company. When you take DJ Moore, regardless how DJ Moore has been playing, DJ Moore on the field, it still means you have to replace, even if it was last week alone, 5 targets there. And I know that it's Rome Odunze is probably the number 1 target. The biggest question is, Olamide Zaccheaus, is will it be him or will it be Luther Burden? And all signs point to Luther Burden continuing to carve out a larger role. And I think this is that matchup where we talked about a shootout option or a possibility. I believe if I'm going to attach the hook the card up to an upside play, especially when you're digging, where the heck is he at? Wide receiver 55. in this. I don't know if I said the word shootout. That's I'm hoping for the New Orleans side to carry their weight when it comes out. Well, it's going to, because Aiden's smash is going to be Alvin Kamara, which is going to come through. So we already have that's going to hit, because I believe our success rate on these smash and pass plays is pushing 70-80% right now. So I almost have to just assume it's going to.
We're up there.
We're up there, and I think Luther Burden is going to be that same. I had a chance to watch him play, from not as much in high school, but a little bit in high school through college. The number one recruited wide receiver in the country.
Oh yeah,
has the ability to do so. And I mean, if you look at a per route basis, 3.19 yards per route, 0.76 fantasy points per route run. All we want is an expanded role. And that's the DJ Moore. And I don't know what DJ Moore's situation is going to be. Kind of similar. I mean, Puka's pretty certain to be out. DJ Moore staying back, and them having to turn around on such short week, and then being, the 8:30 game, it's for Whittington makes sense. The Luther Burden situation, you might have to wait and see with DJ Moore, but I'm not too concerned. I think that's going to just be, he's going to play. Burden's going to see an expanded role. We're going to see a heavier target share, and he's going to perform with those, the extra snaps and routes run.
That's all we need, is just an expanded opportunity for Luther Burden. It just, like, whenever he gets the ball in his hands and you see how he can move, it's just like you sit there and you watch it and you're like, why the hell is Zacchaeus getting so many snaps whenever this guy is just rotting on the sidelines? It makes no sense. I mean, you can just see the clear difference maker that Burden can be. And we always talk about rookies in the post-bye bump, and the Bears had a little bit of an early bye, but we did see a slight bump for Luther Burden. I would expect that to continue. And so him and Zacchaeus might be on the field together. I don't know. Apparently DJ Moore is, is a little under the weather, I guess we'll say. I had some unfortunate events happen to him where he had to go to the hospital after last week. And so I don't know what's going to happen with him this week. But so Burden and Zacchaeus might both be on the field this week if DJ Moore can't go. But yeah, I'm just praying we get to see more of Luther Burden, because I really like the player coming out of college. And so hopefully this will be where we start to see an expanded role for him. But I love the call.
Yeah, it's a good call. And we're going to move back to Tampa with Aiden, second smash player. Drew alluded to the fact that the Bucks are going through it right now. Aiden, where you're going right now is a guy that when the Bucks have gone through it in the past in the receiver position, K. Dotton has stepped up and had some big games. He's been one of those guys that whenever it comes down to a pinch and they need a second target, K. Dotton has sporadically in his career been a guy who could pop up with a 6-catch, 85-yard game, snake a touchdown, like be a productive tight end. Good player, just normally with the amount of weapons they have that offense, doesn't normally get the opportunities. This has to be a spot this week. I see where you're going, where the opportunities could be there for him this week.
Yeah, just to start off between the Buccaneers and Lions, if that's who they're playing. I expect this to be an absolute shootout. Both defenses are struggling, and the flip side, both offenses are on absolute fire. We talked about all the injuries in the secondary for the Lions, but the star safety who is going to try to shut down K-Dot and Brian Branch just the other day got suspended for, I don't know what you want to call it, slugging Juju in the head. I guess we'll go with that. But it's
called assault. Yeah, assault's the term that you're looking for there.
Okay, well, I didn't want to go that far, but Nate brought it up. So anyway, thank you for that. But yeah, after the I don't know, but anyway, moving on. And then let's just go through all the injuries for the Buccaneers. There's no obviously Bucky Irving, so Rashad White's doing great with the opportunities he had, but they're not running the ball a ton and the most efficient in the world. And then the wide receiver position. There's going to be no Chris Godwin once again. I believe he was already ruled out this early in the week. And then there's obviously Jalen McMillan still on IR. Mike Evans, 50-50 to play. If it were me, I think they should sit him out because they have a bye week in just a couple weeks, but we'll see there. And then obviously there's going to be no Mecca Buka for the next 3 to 4 weeks, most likely, unfortunately, with the, I don't want to say severe, but bottom line is hamstring injury that he sustained. And Cade Otton, like we saw, yes, he is volume dependent, but he's going to get that volume with literally he is the number one option on the Buccaneers, and he not just the number one option, the only proven option on the Buccaneers. We want to sort through other receivers. Will it be Sterling Shepard? Will it be Cameron Johnson? Or Johnson? Will it be Tej Johnson? It's a seventh-round rookie or wherever he went. Instead of doing all that, why not just lean even heavily into Cade Otton, which I'm personally going to do? Because last year we saw in the 3 or 4 game sample size without like both Mike Evans or Chris Godwin respectively, Cade Otton was a week in and week out starter for those 3 or 4 weeks at the tight end position in fantasy football. So instead of trying to sort out the whole mess of receivers, Drew, I do like the Sterling Shepard call and someone were to step up at that wide receiver position, but it's still kind of a mess in my opinion. So instead of trying to sort all that out, I'm just going to lean heavily into the tight end, who's the number one and by far the only proven option here for Baker and the Buccaneers. And he actually shown it in the past where when he gets a lot of volume, like last year, going back to that 3 or 4 game sample size, he can rumble his way into the end zone. And for PPR leagues especially, he will have that opportunity.
Yep, I agree. I like the call.
And Drew, we're going to get into the second Smash player, but I would be remiss to not take the opportunity to pick on you a little bit right now, because as your cousin Michael Scott once said on The Office, how the turntables have turned with you on Jaylen Warren, because this was a guy who at the beginning of the year you were like, I want no part of him. I'm not touching him. He's unreliable, all these things. And like ECR running back 18, clear-cut-ish running back 1 in Pittsburgh, Aaron Rodgers trust him. Like, man, this is a 180 situation. I need you to talk me through this because I was shocked when I saw this on the show sheet.
It is. Look, this is me trying to show growth. You know, I don't want to stick to my priors whenever the NFL proves me wrong. Our preseason calls, we're not going to bat 1,000. We're going to get some wrong. And Jaylen Warren is a guy that I was absolutely wrong on. I thought this was going to be Caleb Johnson's backfield. And instead we were talking about Caleb Johnson as like a 4th or 5th best stash option just a few minutes ago. And now I'm talking about Jaylen Warren being ranked as running back 18 and that not being high enough. So we are definitely in a weird time right now. But if you think back to week 4, the Steelers they were scheduled to have the international game with the early start, and we all got surprised with that inactive Jaylen Warren that morning, and Kenneth Gainwell ended up smashing against Minnesota. And then they had their week 5 bye, and then there were questions at that point if Warren would still be the lead back coming off the injury with how impressive Gainwell was. But that's exactly what we got. Warren ended up playing 53% of the snaps and ended up handling 11 of the 23 rushing attempts for Pittsburgh last week. And he had a pretty impressive 4.73 yards per carry, which isn't an easy thing to do against the Browns' run defense. Where he appeared to lose some ground was in the passing game, where Kenneth Gainwell out-targeted Warren 6-2. But when you look at it, Gainwell only ran 2 more routes compared to Warren. So if the route participation is going to continue to be pretty balanced, I'm expecting the targets to balance themselves out as well, especially whenever you consider how talented of a pass catcher Warren is to begin with. That's kind of been his calling card. So I don't expect him to necessarily just get replaced as a pass catcher by Gainwell. I think that they'll continue to split that work, and those targets will even themselves out if those guys are going to run similar route percentages. So while Jaylen Warren might not get back to that 80% snap percentage that we saw in week 3 before his injury and Gainwell's big game, I do think his snaps will continue to increase compared to what we saw last week. And on top of that, he's going literally from one end of the spectrum to the other. Like last week, he played the Browns, which were one of, if not the toughest run defenses in the NFL. And then now this week against the Cincinnati Bengals, who have been the best matchup for fantasy running backs on the season based on schedule adjusted fantasy points given up to the running back. So we're talking about multiple weeks removed from his injury. Now he's got a great matchup. I'm expecting I think that Pittsburgh will have a positive game script in this one, and I think that will lead to more carries for Warren as well. So he's a smash play for me this week, believe it or not.
I believe it.
I'm there.
We love to see it. We love to see it. Growth mindset. Drew over here, just not sticking to his old takes, just growing up and getting at it before our very eyes. We're proud of you, bud.
Appreciate it, man. I try.
Yeah.
I try.
Old star.
All right, Moggs. He's got a running back problem. as do most people at this point in the season.
Yeah.
He's thugging it out with Marks and Tootin week.
I love that. I love it.
That's rough. That you're
That's
not
something.
lying. You are thugging it out. Max to spend on Chubb in a trade.
Oof.
I wouldn't. I mean,
I
don't know.
Nothing.
I'd stay away, especially since you have Marks already.
Yeah, I'm not really dying to lock. If there's some backfields I don't mind locking up, Houston is not one I'm dying to lock up.
No,
I do not care to
definitely
have
not.
the running back room behind that offensive line. I don't think that's a trade you have to make, to be honest with you. I mean, if you can get him for pennies, sure, why not? But I don't think it's anything you need to like force yourself to do.
That's going to be a headache every week, though, if you have both Chubb and Marks.
Yeah,
It's
you're
a
just,
headache now. If you're starting
Yeah.
Woody Marks and
Well, if you have both, I mean, on the same team.
Yeah, Mugs. If you have a headache right now, my best advice for you would be this: is watch your sleeper notifications on Sunday morning like a hawk, and try to see if you can snake you a Bam night on a week-to-week basis.
or Kenneth
You might just be streaming the position this year, and that's fine. We've all had weird fantasy seasons where we've had to do some awkward things to try to piece it together. Yeah, but like you're thugging it out, bud. So you might be doing it all the way through with the waiver wire and sacrificing some receiver depth if you have it. Like I don't know, but the answer ain't Nick Chubb, bud.
Yeah, no, that's not that's just gonna make the problem worse. You're just gonna have more mid options to pick from. If you trade for Chubb, you're still gonna be thugging it out. So you might as well just
even more so
what you're doing. Jake, shout out to Jake. He dropped this question on X and on YouTube, so we appreciate you making sure that we see this one. And the engagement helps us. So that was not sarcastic. We really appreciate it. Should he trade Juckins and Evans for Saquon and Golden? I don't think so. I still slightly value Saquon over Juckins rest of season, but the gap between Saquon and Juckins is smaller than the gap between Evans and Golden.
Same tier.
And so it's not quite, but almost a lateral move between Juckins and Saquon, and then I would rather have Evans than Golden. I would stand pat. Yep, I agree. All right, so we got a consensus on that one. Kells came in. Start Rico Dowdle or Kamani Vidal?
What a question! My God.
Speaking of waiver wire running,
in August, here we are.
I mean, with the last couple weeks that Dowdle's put together, is there any other answer than Dowdle, or are you guys concerned enough with Chuba possibly coming back this week that maybe you need to go Vidal instead?
Man, even if I just don't trust. Like last week, I realized that it's hard to ignore production. And I think that a lot of that was the whole reason, like, for instance, I was on Hassan Haskins, is that I assumed the Chargers would be in a lead to have that scenario unfold where Haskins was going to get the majority of the work. What happens? The Chargers are in a fight, and they are not forced to put Vidal in. I think that it was the hot hand. They continue to ride him. I don't know if it'll be the same case this week. Dowdle is, even if Chuba comes back, I mean, for me, it's Dowdle. I think that was a long-winded way of saying that. But going forward, this question will get more difficult if they don't just straight Wally Pip Chuba. And I don't think they will. I think we'll see.
I don't think they will either.
Kind of a headache of who's going to get what workload.
Yeah, it's just going to be a bigger split between the two, but yeah, no, I agree. At least for this week, I think it's Dowdle. I agree.
Sorry, go ahead. Just real quick, just to let you know just how poorly I constructed one of my teams this year, and it happens to be a semi-contender. On the same team, I happen to have the Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, and Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle headaches. Same roster.
Same back.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Godspeed, brother. All right, Smitty's got a couple questions for us. Monty or White? So I'm assuming this is David Montgomery or Rashad White. Since
I'm all in on Rashad right now
this week. Yeah, it's Rashad White against Detroit.
It's Rashad, God.
Just for volume alone. I go
Yep.
with Sharp White.
Yep, I would agree. Nate, any disagreements on that?
No.
Okay.
But a good
And
pass
then,
catcher too. So
Yeah.
Is Juwan Jennings droppable?
Yeah.
I always answer these questions with who are you
For
picking
what?
up?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it all depends on that. But depending on the options that are out there, he's
Jordan
not somebody.
Whittington. What about Jordan Whittington? If you need
Okay.
to start right now, I'd do it.
If you need to start
Yeah.
right now, I think you can drop Jennings for Jordan Whittington. Yep. It sounds like George Kittle's going to practice this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Ricky
he's back.
Pearsall's eventually going to come back. This pass catching room is only going to get more crowded.
Did you hear him say how many injuries he's dealing with? He's like, I got this, I got this.
He's got
Yeah,
broken
he's got like
ribs,
5 broken ribs or something.
Why
Yeah.
would you?
Low
yeah.
and high ankle sprain.
Yeah,
they need to put
that's
that
terrible.
poor guy on IR and protect him from himself.
Yeah.
So the main answer is who would you be dropping him for? But in general, if you need somebody and Jennings is the guy, you're like, man, I need to pick up somebody, but I really don't want to drop anybody. And Jennings is the guy you're struggling with. I think you can drop him to pick up somebody if that's what you need to do. All right, Bob Hope. He's got a couple questions for us. The first one is a tight end question. Pitts or Fannin, and then he has a quarterback question as well between Hurts or May. So we'll start with the tight end and go with Pitts or Fannin. And I'll let anytime Kyle Pitts is involved, I feel like I need to let somebody else take over. So I'll let you guys go. Pitts or Fannin.
I'd say Pitts just because there's more uncertainty with the fact that Njoku is still around, and it kind of they play hot potato as to who's going to be the guy at that tight end on a week-to-week basis. Njoku had a 20-point week a couple weeks ago, so it's like, to me, if you're looking for a clear-cut opportunity, it's got to be Pitts, right?
Njoku's day-to-day right now. He had that knee injury. He was banged. He saw him get banged up. While I do agree with that, is in Cleveland, it has been kind of hot potato-esque. But Harold Fannin's usage, that's I wish we had seen it every week. To see it the first couple weeks of his usage in the backfield, split wide, at tight end, all these multiple creative ways to get him the ball. Then they stopped doing that, and now then it's back to it. And since Dylan Gabriel's taken over, he's really hyper targeted the tight end position. And if you don't have David Njoku there, if he misses the game, and that's a huge if still, we don't know. If he misses, I'm 100% Fannin. If Njoku plays and you decide to go Pitts, I wouldn't argue, but I'm still leaning Fannin myself.
So even with Njoku, Fannin outsnapped him. Like, he played double the amount of snaps Njoku did, even when both were healthy. So I'd go Fannin. I love Fannin this week versus the Dolphins. I don't know, every time you want to trust Kyle Pitts, I don't know if it really works out in the best way. So I will go Fannin just because Gabriel loves to target the tight ends. And with Njoku more than likely probably missing, I will go Fannin. And it's against the Dolphins. I mean, that's like a dream matchup. So.
Yeah, exactly. I made the joke about Pitts, but I have Fannin higher this week. If Darnell Mooney doesn't end up playing, that makes Pitts a little bit of a stronger play, but I think I still would prefer Fannin. And then as far as the quarterbacks go in that next question, you guys might be able to shed some light on this. I've got Drake May one spot higher, but they're literally back-to-back in my rankings. But Minnesota has been such a tough defense so far, and I know they've had their bye, so they've had one less game than a lot of the defenses we're comparing them against. But Minnesota has their pass defense has looked really strong. Now, obviously, Jalen Hurts can get you there with the tush push and everything like that, but with how well Drake May's playing and the fact that he gets to play against Tennessee, I think I'm just riding the hot hand there, and I'm playing Drake May.
I play Drake May. It sounds crazy, but I play May too.
I'm on May as well.
Oh, there we go.
Sweet.
I expected some disagreements, but 3 for 3. And then should he drop Bam Knight for Kendre Miller? I would stick with Bam Knight right now. You can go either way. They're kind of in the same territory. I have more. If you need a start right now, Bam Knight is more likely to be able to plug into your lineup. If you're just stashing somebody, then maybe you go Kendre Miller just in case Alvin Kamara gets traded. So I think it kind of depends on what you need out of these guys, really.
I agree with
2 cents. I still think Kendre, just because at this point I think Trey Benson's coming back sooner, and at that point Bam Knight's utterly useless to me. And Kendry Miller could be as well, but splitting hairs. I would rather have the person who might have a significant role come fantasy playoff time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then let's see, scrolling down here a little bit further, Moggs is down here. Any buy low candidates? We're probably need to look at the running back position. Any buy lows at running back for him to possibly target? He said that he was in the middle of a rebuild and wasn't really expecting to win this year, but at this point he's kind of found himself in a position to make a run. And I mean, look, I respect that. Anytime you can make a run at a championship, you go try to do it. So it sounds like you're probably talking about Dynasty, which makes things a little bit more complicated. But as far as running backs that might be like underperforming or that you can
I think we've said it. I think we've said it a few times. Alvin Kamara and or Breece Hall. I think both potentially with the change of scenery. Depends on the person who has both of those guys. There could be a significant jump and bump in value for both of those two. Hopefully your people in your league aren't listening to us right now, because then your trade cost just got exponentially higher or lower, depending upon their
just
thoughts
pause
on
this
what our
and then
opinion
go
is.
off of it. And then
Depending on how they feel about our advice. Yeah. Another one I'll throw out there. Tony Pollard's name's been thrown around in trades. Possibly, maybe go look at Tajay Spears as well as another option. As far as that goes. Chaps mind sculpting before Thursday's game traded Scat and Worthy for Devontae Adams. Sad to lose the Scat, man, but excited to hopefully see an uptake in chemistry with Stafford and Adams.
That's
man, the word Scat being thrown out is just wild.
Where'd that come from?
So, man, I think Adams could very well end up being the wide receiver 1 overall this week with Puka out. So you could end up seeing those dividends pay off rather quickly. So I don't mind it, man.
No, I like it.
Me too.
Start 2 running backs, 1 flex, half PPR. David Montgomery, Jordan Mason, Charbonnet, Rico Dowdle, Trayvon Henderson, Tajay Spears, and T. Higgins. So we need to pick 2 of these running backs and then decide if a third running back is worth flexing over T. Higgins, essentially. I feel like
Rico's one of them.
Rico and Mason are probably in for me off the top of my head.
Me too, and I keep Higgins too.
And then Higgins did show some life with Flacco at quarterback. I still don't have him as a top 24 receiver. Where I got him like just outside my top 30. Pittsburgh secondary, they've starting to look a little bit better than they did at the start of the year, but still not like a terrifying matchup. So I mean, if we take out, so it really comes down to, do you flex David Montgomery or T. Higgins, I think, because I think Montgomery would probably be the next running back up after we take out the 2 that we're starting. So between David Montgomery and T. Higgins, where do you guys lay there?
I'd still go Higgins because I don't know what Montgomery's workload looks like every single week.
Yeah, Tampa's a tough. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jordan Mason's matchup, I don't really like, especially if they get Jalen Carter back.
No, yeah, me either.
But I do have Jordan Mason higher than David Montgomery currently.
I do too.
And I would do Mason. I would do Higgins. I would probably actually take Higgins over Mason or Montgomery, as far as if I was just choosing one of those 3. So I think that being said makes me feel more comfortable with Higgins in the flex. And like you guys said, Mason is my RB2.
And Dowdle.
And Dowdle is my 1. Yeah.
Yep. So Kels, speaking of this, if you want to rewind the show just about like 20 minutes earlier, we actually had a Luther Burden segment. And so I will just answer this for Nate because it was Nate's smash play of the week. Go with Luther Burden in that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple more questions here before we get to the pass plays. We'll go through real quick. Half PPR, BTJ, or Breece Hall this week? I'm going Breece personally, but what do you guys think?
Breece.
Breece.
Yeah.
Breece close. I like the.
It is close,
BTJ, but
BTJ's got a good matchup. I say good matchup. The Rams secondary has been so wild this year. Like they started off the year strong. Witherspoon got hurt. They have struggled against bigger receivers since Witherspoon got hurt. So BTJ could be in a good spot, but Breece Hall could also end up being the Jets' entire offense this week with Garrett Wilson being out. So
it's close, but I go
it is very close. I do agree with that. And then rest of season, Wandell or Judy. I don't want shit to do with that Browns passing offense. Give me Wandell.
Judy's droppable for me. So
yeah. I would agree. All right, one last question before we go through these past plays. Should we trade Rice and Dobbins for Gibbs and Pittman? Have Roman, BTJ, and Tet and Olave, but running backs are Hampton, Vidal, Dobbins, Harvey, and JCM. Should I trade Rice and Dobbins for Gibbs and Pittman?
I'd do that.
It sucks to have to trade Rice after you held on to him the entire time until he's ready to come back. But the upgrade from Dobbins to Gibbs is absurd. And while Rice to Pittman is going to be a downgrade, I think you can afford to do it whenever you already have Rome and BTJ and Ted.
And win-win. Once he gets rid of Dobbins, once Dobbins gets banged up, he's got RJ Harvey right there to slide right into that spot in Denver anyway.
It's not when. It's not if, it's when he gets.
Yeah, exactly. So nice. Thanks you guys for all the questions. Appreciate it. We'll speed through our stash plays with maybe just a quick snippet here and there. Right, Rhett?
Right. Before we do that, though, we got to go through our friends at Fast Draft, and the season's heating up, and they've got you hooked up with new games such as that Flex 6 Frenzy, which is a 10-team 6-round game where you pick running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends on a 6-round 20-second clock. You pick your best 6 in PPR scoring for the Sunday slate, or the Quick 6 Super Slam, where you're just picking 6 guys for the Sunday games, no salary cap problems. Pick your best 6, make it happen over at Fast Draft. So, guys, let's get into these pass plays. We appreciate all the questions, but we got more data we need to give people as well. So, Nate, go ahead and give me your first pass play, which is Chase Brown, who at the ECR running back 23 has somehow had some decent staying power despite the fact that he's not having a great year.
Yeah, the biggest thing with Chase, his sole value has been volume. And if volume takes a hit, which in a matchup when you have, I don't want to say it's less than opportunistic, but the Steelers do have an ability to shut down certain areas of the offense. And I think Chase Brown, while not their number one priority, is going to get lost in translation a little bit. And I think we saw even last week, when you don't see hyper usage, like league leading usage, and we're starting to see him cede some carries, it has me a little concerned. He's not efficient with the ball. And this is me. I'm a Chase Brown fan. I want him to succeed, because I think we've collectively said each week, like, hey, he's a bum. He's not going to do well. It's if he didn't get the volume, the yards per attempt per week went like 2.9, 0.3, 4. Yes, that was a 0.3, by the way, that I threw in there. I did not misspeak. 0.3, 4, 3.4. No, I did not. He was saved a little bit that week, by having 5 targets, but he also had a fumble, and he finishes the RB 58. He hasn't finished better than the RB. Last week was RB 20, which is good-ish, but yeah, it's been weekly finishes of 18, 33, 58, 38, 36, 20. I don't see this week as the week to get going against Pittsburgh, who I don't know. I hate that I'm taking this stance, but I'm shying away from Chase.
And to quote the
fair way to feel,
and to quote the great Sir Mix-a-Lot, 36, 20, 58, only if she 5'3". No, we didn't catch that joke? Okay, fine. Screw you guys. Aiden certainly won't get it, but let's keep moving, because
I did.
Aiden,
I was going to say, he says that. I whistled the next.
He gave you the whistle.
Yeah, what they say in the song.
Yeah, Rhett, come on. Notice.
I know that. Yeah,
it's just the absurd crickets in the room just kind of made me feel like it didn't work out, which is fine. But
I'm not getting it. So.
Do I need to see the next verse? Should do side
No.
bends or sit-ups.
We're good. We're good.
Aiden might not get the reference, but he can at least give us another pass play. So what you got?
He can give us a
Yeah. So I feel like I'm going quite out on a limb with this one, and it's Devon Achane at ECR RB6 versus the Cleveland Browns this week. The Cleveland Browns elite run defense, might I add. And this Dolphins offense, like, I'm just going to put it bluntly, I don't know how Mike McDaniel still has a job because it feels like he's between what he does and then between Tua's whole, like, circus comments at calling out leadership after he literally just threw 3 interceptions. It just feels like the whole team is like quit, if that makes sense. I just don't think they're playing for one another anymore. And Devon Achane, like, he's never really going to be in like, what do I want to say? Like run friendly game scripts because they're always going to be passing. Now, yes, he's an elite pass catcher out of the backfield, but when you're playing the Cleveland Browns, I feel like this is going to be a just ugly, low scoring, low volume game for everybody involved. I'm more excited about the Browns weapons right now than I am for the Dolphins weapons in this matchup. That sounds like crazy, but we talked about Fannin. I'm high on him this week. Isaiah Bond's kind of on the rise. And then on the flip side, Achane and Waddle, specifically Achane is my pass play here as a whole, respectively. I don't know. Against the elite run defense, I'm just not in it. And if he doesn't get the volume, which I don't expect him to, I just don't see how he's going to go anywhere near getting in the end zone. And speaking of the red zone, and end zone area, Darren Waller is far and away clearly the guy there. In his last 3 games, he has 4 touchdowns with the Dolphins after coming out of retirement and returning. That sounds crazy to say, but 3 games, 4 touchdowns with the Dolphins for Darren Waller. So he's far and away the red zone option there.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns, as good of a run defense they are, they also give up like the 3rd or 4th lowest amount of receiving yards per game to the running back position as well. So even as the Achane can make his money as a pass catcher, the only difficult thing with Achane is it literally just takes a couple plays and he can make your fantasy day with how explosive he is. So just because of that factor, I still have him inside my top 10 at running back this week. I do have him a little bit lower than ECR, so I do agree with you that you should temper your expectation.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it's not a full, like, it's not a. Sometimes we've done like, hey, it's not like a full sit if you got some other lower tier guys, but maybe temper your expectations a bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Before I get into my pass play real quick, we'll talk to Josh. How much of a robbery is Rachaad White and Pittman for Gibbs? Should I veto? I mean, I would definitely rather have Gibbs than Rachaad White and Pittman. But as far as a veto goes, unless you can prove that those two fantasy managers,
leave it up to the 2 people who are.
Unless you can prove that the 2 people involved in the deal colluded and we're working together to try to make one team stronger on purpose. And unless you can prove collusion, you got to let the trade.
Like in The League, the show The League.
Yeah,
I would rather leave a league that has 2 people in it that would collude for that than I would rather add vetoes to a league for trading.
Just do neither.
And I mean, and no, White is probably not going to stay in as a full-time role whenever Bucky's back. He might have a bigger role than he had at the beginning of the year, but it's look, the person that has White and Pittman, they are capitalizing on the value that White has right now, and they're cashing in while the getting's good. And the person that has Gibbs is allowing him to do that. And so as much as it might suck, the advice that I would have is tell the person that has Jahmyr Gibbs to get better.
Do better.
So, and at the end of the day, a lot of these trades, I can't tell you how many trades I've seen go on in the leagues that I'm in the middle of the season. I'm like, wow, so-and-so just got absolutely trade raped. And then the person that supposedly got trade raped at the end of the season, they're the ones that ended up coming out on the better end of the deal. So you don't know how those things are going to shake out. So it's just kind of a general, if you can't prove collusion, don't veto. But as far as my first pass play for the week, it brings me no joy to say this because I'm a huge Travis Etienne fan and was a big proponent of him being a value in drafts this year. But I am worried for Etienne this week. The one good thing about Etienne is his value. His role has been very consistent. He's playing about 60% of the snaps. He's going to handle double-digit carries. Bashal Tutin's going to work into that a little bit. He's going to split some carries, and then he's going to have Etienne's going to have about a 40% route percentage, and then the Quint Allen is going to work into that. So he's splitting with a different running back on each role, but he is still the main guy in each of those roles. So he's got that going for him. The bad side is that at the end of the day, he is still splitting work on both the rushing game and the receiving game. And if he doesn't find the end zone outside of week 1 in the big rushing game that he has, he's been really tough to depend on. He was the running back 19, mostly thanks to a season high 5 receptions last week. And then he was the running back 30 against Kansas City in week 5. And so you got a guy that's been somewhat touchdown dependent, which for those RB2s, that's how a lot of them are. But now he's got to face a Rams defense that's been the 4th toughest matchup against fantasy running backs on the year, and they have yet to give up a single rushing touchdown so far this season, which is a complete 180 from where they were last year. The Rams' run defense was a absolute nightmare last season, and thankfully they did some stuff to address that, and so far it has paid off. So I'm not saying that you have to bench ETN this week, but given where you drafted him, and then guys like Bill Krosky-Merritt, Rashad White, Rico Dowdle that have popped up on waivers that you could have picked up, I think there's a decent chance that you could have some better options for your running back 2 slot over ETN this week. So with the matchup in front of ETN for week 7, he's a pass for me.
Yeah.
All right. Couple more questions. Should I trade Judkins and Olave for London and Pollard? Man, I mean, you're getting an upgrade
position
going from Olave to London, but you're a huge downgrade going from Judkins to Pollard. Judkins is my RB2. Well, I have great wide receivers already.
I keep Judkins.
Rice, PTJ. Yep, I agree.
You don't need to make the receiver move.
Yeah, no, I would stand pat. Would you trade Ladd, Myers, Swift for Nico and Marv? Running backs are Barkley, Kyron, Javante with White, Rico. Spot starts, wide receivers, London, Sutton, Evans, and Terry.
I do it.
I would.
Ladd, Myers, and Swift for Nico. And
Myers is like nothing at this point.
Yeah.
I'm still holding out hope in Nico having a really strong second half if they can even remotely get better at pass pro.
And you can afford to do that with this team structure.
Yeah, and he gave the extra context too. If it helps, I never started Myers, and I think that's the perfect example of adding in a third player to a trade that you don't necessarily need, but another manager might still see value in to get the trade done. So
exactly right.
Yeah, I would do that. And then it's Pat Bryant. I mean, he for dynasty purposes, he's a fine stash, but he's also getting outworked by like little Jordan Humphrey and shit like that as well. So nothing I would get too overly excited about, but he's a fine guy to have at the bottom of your bench in a dynasty league, though. I like Pat Bryant coming out of Illinois, but he was also an older.
It's not little Jordan Humphrey.
But he's on the Giants.
Jordan Humphrey's on the Giants.
Wait, who am I thinking of?
Nobody in Marvin Mims maybe, and Troy Franklin.
It all rotates anyway.
That's my. I am a Pat Bryant fan, so I was quick to.
Where did I get Lil Jordan Humphrey from?
Nate was.
Who was I thinking of in his? Who was I thinking of in his spot? I don't know.
Hey, it doesn't matter because
I know about Sutton and Franklin and Mims, but I don't know why I thought that. I don't know why I thought Montgomery was still there too.
Pat Bryant. I like him from a dynasty as Bo Nix improves. He does one thing extremely well.
Bo Nix hasn't necessarily been improving. He's kind of.
I said as he improves. Give it time.
Yeah. There you go. There you go, Moggs. I must have been thinking about Lil Mims.
Lil Marvin Mims. They'll rotate anyway. So.
Lil old Marvin Mims.
As the last standing Lil Jordan Humphrey stan in the world, I gotta say, anytime that man's name gets dropped in any reference, any way, shape, or form, it's a good damn night for me. So I'm happy that you made that mistake, Drew, because I was probably the one person in the Superdome a few years ago that had on a Lil Jordan Humphrey hooded sweatshirt for the Saints. So, yes, sir.
Sweatshirt and everything.
Yeah,
crazy.
Had it custom made, baby. Shout out Lil Jordan.
Moggs, I would say Kyle Williams fits that same bill. Fine dynasty stash, but nothing to get too overly excited about. All right, we still have another set of pass plays to get through. So, Nate, kick us off. Hit us with your second pass play.
It's probably going to infuriate a number of people, but me personally, despite how exciting Cam Scatterbo was last week, I don't want to chase the flame this week against the Broncos. As much as I know the Broncos, you take them when you're trying to shut down the opposing team's wide receiver number one. Well, when they do that, I don't think that the Giants are necessarily going to be in a position. Granted, maybe I'm wrong. Jackson Dart and company has been fantastic, but I think that the pressure that Denver has been able to put on opposing teams as a rookie is going to wreak havoc. And I know there's going to be pushback, and I hope that I'm wrong. I really do, because I have enjoyed immensely watching this new Giants offense and team take hold. But I do get concerned that while they want to establish a running game with Scatterbo, and I know he's been effective out of the backfield as well. Denver, we talked earlier about Cleveland and their run D. They're just a shade below Cleveland as far as, rushing yards allowed and overall defense against running backs. They've only allowed one rushing touchdown on the season to running backs, but it's easy to I want to back Cam. So I don't even want to say this one. I almost want to just pass on it and just not feel it. But I'm saying you're starting him. This is a temper expectation type thing. Don't expect last week's performance. In fact, actually, I would say expect a low-end RB2, like I think RB 22 to 24 is where I'm going to have him by week's end.
And then it will go 3 touchdowns again.
Yeah, probably not going to score 3 touchdowns again. That's probably not going to happen. All right, Aiden.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can possibly get as hot as you did with your first pass. Yeah, considering you went with Devon A. Chan.
Yeah, I was out there.
Who's kind of up there. But what's the second pass for week 7?
I know the tight end landscape is like, oh, we got to find just someone to start, but Hunter Henry is unfortunately going to be a pass for me this week, guys. Just a couple weeks ago, we were looking at Hunter Henry as a locked in, loaded top 12 tight end 1. Yeah, here we go. Must start every single week. But the 2 weeks since then, it's been like flat out bad. He hasn't scored a touchdown. He's not getting the consistent targets he did to start the season and a few weeks after that. And I feel like this Patriots offense right now, of course, minus the Bills, because, I'm not getting that, but Diggs went off in that game. But it seems like the Patriots right now, 1 week will be Diggs, one day Boutte, who, by the way, hasn't done anything since week 1. Now the Sun is back with 2 touchdowns. So 1 week will be Diggs, 1 week it will be Boutte. Next thing you know, Austin Hooper will be out there as well. I just don't know. The personnel they use is really kind of frustrating, if you know. I know they don't run the ball much, and I do like Hunter Henry in the end zone, but Drake May is a rushing quarterback. He likes to take off with his legs quite a bit, so you got that limited passing that's maybe for Hunter Henry. And just the inconsistent nature of this personnel usage for this Patriots offense, I think Stefon Diggs does have a big bounce back this week going forward. So for this week specifically, unfortunately, I'm going to, in a good matchup on paper against the subpar Titans defense, I'm unfortunately going to have to pass, if you will, for this exercise on Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I mean, and the Titans typically, like, all the Titans are a bad defense, so they, must be bad against tight ends. But they've actually been the 7th toughest matchup for tight ends so far on the season, and so it hasn't been an easy road for tight ends going up against the Titans, as bad as they may be. And then there's guys like Mason Taylor, Kyle Pitts, Kate Otten that we already talked about that are behind Hunter Henry right now in ECR. That I'm probably going to end up having Henry behind all those guys by the time Sunday gets here. So,
and it's not like they're going to have to throw a ton to keep up with the Titans, so they'll probably just play ball control, and the passing attempts will be limited.
Yeah. All right.
Drew,
so, yep.
Get us to your last pass play this week, please.
Yeah, so it's Devontae Smith, and Devontae Smith is awesome. This has nothing to do with Devontae Smith, the player, but the Eagles' passing offense has been a complete nightmare to try to navigate so far this year, and I don't see things getting any easier this week. Historically, whenever all of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert are healthy, Smith has been more of like a wide receiver 3 or a flex rather than a wide receiver 2, which is being ranked as this week. And that's mostly held true this year as well. He has had 2 games which were awesome, where he finished within the top 10 receivers, but he's also had 3 games outside the top 50 receivers and another game outside the top 35 receivers. So it's basically been all or nothing for Smith for fantasy. And whenever you got to deal with the Vikings secondary, we already talked about earlier in the show how awesome they've been. I'm going to bet on fantasy managers being disappointed. On the season, the Vikings have been the toughest matchup for fantasy receivers. And the one silver lining for Smith is that the two outside corners are technically a more difficult matchup than the slot corner. But even in saying that, the Vikings are still only giving up 8.1 fantasy points per game to slot receivers, which is the fourth lowest in the NFL. They just happen to give up the lowest fantasy points per game in the NFL to outside receivers. So, while the slot might be a better spot to be in compared to lining up outside against Minnesota, there's really not an ideal spot to line up against Minnesota. So, given how difficult the matchup is, how underwhelming the Eagles' passing game has been the majority of the season, I don't want to bet on Devontae Smith being a top 24 receiver this week, so he's a pass for me.
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. So, I mean, those are our smash and pass players. But before we get out of here, let's hit a quick Week 7 reaction. We talked about Puka Nacua and his injury. We mentioned Jordan Whittington being a possible option as a pass catcher. We talked about Emeka Egbuka and his injury, and K. Dotton, Sterling Shepard being options in that pass game. Well, we didn't touch on was Garrett Wilson and his hyperextended knee that he's expected to miss a couple of weeks. So first off, Nate, let me ask you this. Do you think you can trust anyone else in this passing offense?
Mason Taylor in the passing offense. Mason Taylor is probably the most reliable option of the group. The other options, I was wanting to say Josh Reynolds, but he missed practice today as well with a hip injury. So then I don't know how much deeper on that wide receiver room we can really go. Maybe you guys.
Alan Lazard.
Yeah, exactly. That says a lot.
Yeah, I'm not trusting any of those guys. It's Mason Taylor, and Breece Hall is going to get a ton of checkdowns from Justin Fields. So I'd lean heavily into Breece Hall, and I think Mason Taylor is a must-start tight end this week.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Drew, is Justin Fields even still startable in one quarterback leagues?
There might be some weeks in one quarterback leagues this week. He's going to be outside of my top 12. I won't be in your typical one quarterback 12-team league. He will not be my top 12 this week. There might still be some weeks, but not this one.
Here's a good one that I have really, and I want to kind of make that decent. Justin Fields or Jackson Dart.
Oh boy!
Oh my God! Jackson Dart's got to play Denver.
I know
I go Fields just for the elite rushing upside still.
But Jackson Dart kind of does the same thing.
They do both run the ball. I think I would go. God, I think I would go Fields just because we have seen like top 3 quarterback overall finishes on the year at least in the weeks where he has gotten it done. Whenever it's bad, it's terrible. It's blow your week up terrible. I think I would go Fields in that scenario, but that's kind of like where the line is at. I think those guys are probably going to end up right now. They are close to back to back. They might very well have them back to back.
I do. I have them back to back at 14-15 or 15-16. How I'm moving them around. So sorry to end us on that note, but that's an intriguing one. Hopefully you don't have those two quarterbacks, or maybe hopefully you do have those two quarterbacks.
Yeah, I have an irresponsible amount of Justin Fields in my 1 QB leagues this year, so I might be in big trouble.
Me too. Me too, buddy. Me too.
I might be in trouble.
Real quick to run through these last couple comments we got before we get out of here. Traded Kittle and Sutton for Jaden Daniels. Our quarterback scoring is 2 times basically. Wow. Okay. Odunze, St. Brown, Collins, Flowers, Egbuka. Holy cow. Okay, so wide receiver depth for days. So you're not going to miss Sutton, and then you've got Kincaid and Fannin. So even though losing Kittle hurts, I mean, if you got Jaden Daniels on 2 times scoring, that's a no-brainer there. So I don't blame you at all.
That receiver group is loaded. So
Moggs, yeah, you can sell high on Tez Johnson, see if you can cash in on him in Dynasty after the big game. He might have one other game. Like Adam said, Mike Evans is likely going to be back this week, so that could hurt Tez Johnson chances of having back-to-back good games. His profile was kind of iffy given his size and things like that, but the guy can play ball though. But he is on the smaller side. So
did you hear that? Did you hear the thing after the game? He thought the MVP chance.
Yeah.
He's like, "What'd I do?"
That was pretty good. Got offered Kittle for Andrews and Rico. Should I trade? I mean, it depends on how bad you need running back depth because I mean, going from Kittles to Andrews is going to really hurt you at tight end.
I'd keep Kittle because Dowdle could be like in
he
an
could very
ugly
well go
split in
back
2
to a
weeks.
time.
Yeah.
He could literally this week he could go back.
Yeah.
To timeshare.
So I'd keep Kittle.
Me too.
Should I drop Chubb for Marks? I mean, I would rather have Marks over Chubb rest of season.
Yeah.
So
I'd make that 1-for-1 swap.
Marks is more frustrating because you just expect him to have the full workload, and when he doesn't get production, you're more pissed off. Whereas if you have Chubb, you don't expect him to get a workload, so you're like, and
it's going to be ugly.
He's surprised. He makes you happy when he does something. Marks is only really outside of 1 week just disappointed you because you expect him to do the right thing, a la Ramondre and Travion Henderson type usage. And
can't be disappointed if there's no expectations.
Right, exactly. There you go. Love it.
All right, Gary, what's up, boys? What's up, man? 1-5. That's rough.
Sorry.
I get it. We all have those leagues where we get started off to a slow start. Traded Genty and Tet and Sutton for Scat and JJ.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. That is a lot to give up. But I get it though. I mean, you're 1-5. You feel like you're at a point you need to shake it up. You got one of, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL on your team. And then maybe Scatterbo just continues to run hot. One thing we were talking about it before the show started, Scatterbo's got a nice schedule in front of him to where he's not going to score 3 touchdowns, but he's got some really solid matchups the next like 3 or 4 weeks. And then he has, I think starting like week 11 or week 12, he has some difficult matchups, and then he has a week 14 bye. So you might be able to ride Scat for a few weeks on the hot hand, and then maybe sell him even higher and flip him as well. But hopefully you can. Even at 1-5, your season's not over, Gary. So I appreciate the fact that you're trying to shake things up, make a move. No doubt you had to pay a premium there, but it could end up working out for you if Scatterbo ends up paying off. So, you might be able to even flip him again too, and that trade just continue to bring you some more value there.
That's the type of swings you take though when you're winning.
Yeah, you got to do something. I mean, clearly whatever status quo is not working, so you got to do. You got to do something. Traded for Lamar while he was hurt. Thoughts on sending Achane for Zay and Henry and going all in on a Ravens comeback? It's a depth league, 2 running backs, receiver, 3 flex. I have Jay Taylor in London also. I don't know if I want to be that overweight on the Ravens as much as I like. I love Lamar, and I think Zay Flowers is a decent buy low candidate right now too. While Lamar's out, Achane has just been rock solid, man.
And in depth league.
Yeah.
That's the depth leagues where you do start that many players. Yeah, that's where a 2-for-1 can actually be beneficial, because then you're, the opportunity cost of what you would start instead of that spot in Zay and Henry. But I don't think it supersedes losing out on what Achane has been.
Yeah.
And like you said, being overweight on Baltimore, that
they have a down
something
week.
Just you're done. You're done.
That's your whole team. Yeah. Do you guys think
scared.
Henry's fully back now? Because I kind of do, but
I think Henry's going to be fine. I think Henry and Flowers are both great buy low options right now. I just don't want a team that has Lamar, Henry, and Flowers all on it.
Exactly. Right.
But I think they're all great buy low options. But yeah, it's just that's a lot to go in for one team. Adam, appreciate the questions tonight, man. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
And Moggs, yep, it's time to get him out of here. Send him out of here. Send him packing. Chaps, we appreciate you as well, man. Chat, you guys have been awesome tonight. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us.
Yep.
For sure. But so we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Y'all keep in mind, fantasyandframes.com. We got the waiver wire stuff this week. We got the IDP. We got regular waiver wire. We got so much stuff that's coming out on a regular basis. We got Shoot the Gap on a weekly basis. Most weeks running for your IDP content. Just so much stuff going on. Fantasy hockey kicking off again. Just Fantasy and Frames is just
pumping out content
on a regular basis. One of those people who's constantly out there doing that is Aiden Weingardner. Aiden, tell them what you got working this week, bud.
Yeah, so obviously every Monday night / Tuesday morning, depending when Jorge gets to it, the waiver wire article releases on a weekly basis, and I love doing it for all you guys in the public, just because it's my personal waiver wire opinions. And if I don't agree with some of the popular ones, like I think it's fool's gold, excuse me, I'll say it. Those are my personal waiver rankings, if you will, and my personal article write-ups on each and every waiver player that I believe in. So I love doing that on a weekly basis, and obviously you can find that at fantasyframes.com, as Rhett mentioned, every week.
Nate, pregame Sunday mornings, baby. You locked in.
We're locked in. We're where they get you updated with everything happening from 8 a.m. till 11 a.m. Central Time. God's time is
Lane
Drew and I
Central
both.
Time.
Whatever. It's we know it's the real time. It's not confusing. All it is math. You can figure it out, even as a Bills fan. Like, what is
wow. Jeez.
What? Yeah.
Oh boy. Talking on the show. Let's just.
That was not intended for all Bills fans. Mostly just Aiden. I apologize.
Mostly just me.
Still love you. Mostly. Definitely only you. And Drew's Central Time too. So.
Yep, we're all Central Time except for you. So just go throw yourself through a table like all Bills fans
Rhett
do.
is as well. Exactly.
Hey, I'm not the only one. Kyle's Eastern Time too. So
Kyle's not here right now.
Yeah,
he ain't here right now, bud. Sorry.
Well, he's watching. I'll let him know.
And Drew, me and you chilling for now on Wednesdays until I gotta start doing start sits in a few weeks.
Yeah, big chilling, man. I do have every week, Thursday morning / Thursday afternoon, I do have the wide receiver cornerback matchup report that I do for Fantasy Alarm. So if you're ever curious how a particular matchup might affect your fantasy receivers, I'm putting that together every week. And then hopefully back here with you boys every Wednesday as scheduled. I know I've had to miss the last few weeks, and I wanted to speak to that because our head man in charge, Jorge Edwards, he did this in the background without any expectation of public acknowledgement. But I want the people that are still listening, I want the people to know the type of person that the head of Fantasy and Frames, Jorge Edwards, is. So I had to miss a couple shows because my son had some problems with his vision. He had to get a couple surgeries done on his eye to get some stuff corrected, which thankfully all went well. Everything's all good now. His vision, everything's great there. But as kind of like a get well present, or glad everything went okay present, Jorge just randomly sent a $50 Xbox gift card to me to give to my son, just as like a hey, glad everything worked out, glad your son's okay, here's a gift from me to him, because he knew what was going on in the background of my personal life. I know he had no intention of sharing that publicly. That's just the kind of person that Jorge is, and I want to make sure the public knows that whenever you support Fantasy and Frames, you are supporting good people that are being led by a great person that sets a great example at the top. And so, that's the kind of leadership that's at the top of Fantasy and Frames, and I want to make sure that our audience knows about it.
Yeah, the real ones never want their flowers, but we're gonna give them to you anyway. Right? So
100%.
we appreciate you and everything that you do, my friend. So, look, as for us, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. The Twitter handles, you see me at RManuel Sports, Aiden at A1Gardner13, Nate at Nate Markham, and Drew at Drew3MR. Next week, boys, we hit the halfway point of the season, week 8.
Right.
Like,
it's crazy, man.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be here next week with more Smash or Pass players, but y'all know us. Part of the Fantasy and Frames team. We are Fourth and Frames. Rhett, Nate, Aiden, Drew. We gone. Toodles.
J-Mo.
To the moon.
There it is. Toodles.